That's the wrong one. It's the wrong one. There we go.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome to Technical Difficulties, the stream.
Welcome to Technical Difficulties, the stream. This music is very loud. I can hear myself. Oh no.
It's really good, though.
It is really good. Okay. So, there's some weirdness this stream.
Yeah.
We tried to set up Penny's VTuber. It didn't quite work. It's really the Technical Difficulties stream.
Yeah, well, we're working on it. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out, but for now, we each have our own... Did you take an allergy med?
No, I didn't.
You should do that. I knew I brought it in here for a reason.
I was so distracted by technical difficulties.
We were
I
trying
forgot to take my...
for like 30 minutes. We have been trying for like 30 minutes to get everything working the way that I wanted it to. And I think the answer is we really can't have Penny's VTuber on stream until I get some kind of laptop or something that we can connect her phone to. So...
Shit sucks, but...
Shit sucks.
It is what it is.
Until we figure that out, for now, we have this, which will work.
It'll work.
It'll work.
I mean, it the voice thing is gonna pick up both of us, but It is what it is. I'm just gonna be two-dimensional for a while.
Penny's just gonna be flat.
I'm just gonna be flat and
Unfortunately.
lifeless. What else is new?
Okay.
Anyway, we're playing Pokemon.
We're playing Pokemon.
Let's play some fucking Pokemon.
And I have to monitor chat via my iPad, so it may be a little bit delayed. Because again, I used to have 3 monitors and now I don't. It's going to drive me crazy, but we're gonna deal with it. Because I really like looking at myself while I stream, to make sure everything's good. But here we go. We have separate controls.
This world of ours is widely inhabited by creatures known as Pokemon.
The Skiddo's not goth this time.
These mysterious creatures can be found in every corner of our world. I can't do.
Why is it German?
French. Yeah, I am Professor Sycamore. I am the German professor in France. I can't do a French accent.
No, Ham, you are being watched. You are still being watched.
Are you a boy or a girl? I'm a girl. What do you look like?
Boy, I guess.
Look like none of these, but I guess I'll be this version.
I'm the pale one.
With the blue eyes.
With the blue eyes. The piercing blue eyes.
My name is... Penny.
I can't believe this is working. I'm so
I know,
happy.
it's actually working. It's crazy. Okay, so we have a couple of rules.
There is something I have to set up for us to be able to connect to each other.
Très bien.
And I don't know if it'll show on stream, so...
Go and meet many Pokemon and people. Now let's go visit the world of Pokemon.
What are we doing? We're playing Pokemon, but both Penny and I have control of the game. Yeah, little
Fletchling. Fletch. Yeah, we're playing Pokemon in parallel. Shit, there's a bird in my house. Oh, fuck.
Oh, look at your little Pikachu DS.
Yeah. This game is so cute. The gamepad even has a screen.
It's so funny that you have a Pikachu DS. I wonder if it's recognizing it as a Pikachu DS for some reason. Okay, before we get too far into this, let me... Hang on. Let me do this for just a second because
the graphical style in this game very much reminds me of, and like animations, very much reminds me of,
Okay. There we go.
Perfect. Very much reminds me of the Final Fantasy IV remake on DS.
Yeah.
You kind of are proportioned the same way, and it has a very similar running animation.
These rooms are very gender.
Oh, look, it's my hot mom. Oh, look, it's Jack's hot mom.
We have the same mom.
We have the same hot mom. I will step out and say hello to the neighbors. So, we have a couple of rules for the game. Rule number 1. Neither of us are allowed to have the same Pokemon on our team.
Yep.
If one of us uses a Pokemon on our team, the other person cannot use that Pokemon. The other rule is that after every single gym, we must battle each other.
Yep.
And we're going to keep a running tally of how many wins each one of us gets.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
To determine which one of us... Plus, after the game is done, we have to battle one last time to determine the true champion.
So, Penny's gonna win.
Not
and
necessarily.
I'm here to have fun.
Jack is actually pretty good at Pokemon. Once we're, once we have, like, a similar amount of prep work done, our matches actually tend to be pretty close. Also,
and we're not doing
Ryan.
a ton of like.
I love you.
Yes. Right.
Also, this will prevent one of us from getting further than the other.
Yeah. This joystick was not made for DS games. Loser makes pancakes. Yeah, it's X and Y. So I'm playing X and Penny is playing Y.
You can tell which one of us is playing because I'm a cute girl and Jack is the weird boy character. I like Tierno.
Yeah, Tierno's great. Honestly, all of these companions are really good.
I'm not Lil P. Don't call me Lil P.
Oh no!
Don't call me Peekins.
Big J, Lil J. I would just like to be Jack, please.
I'm gonna have my nickname just be Pen.
That's what I call you.
I know, that's why. You should be Beans. Nickname should be Beans.
I'm not gonna be called Beans for the entire game.
Oh, only your friends will call you Beans. Everyone else will call you Jack.
No, because they don't know the significance.
They don't know the significance of beans.
They don't know the significance of beans. I've just met them.
Well, you've been independently named Beans twice now by me, so.
Yeah, that's true.
You've been nicknamed Beans. So Jack here has been independently nicknamed Beans for 2 different reasons by different members of our family.
No, I don't want to be called Beans. I thought about it. I'm just gonna be Jack.
Just call me Jack.
Please just call me Jack.
Pen is fine. Ah, I accidentally hit B instead of A. Because...
Be worm, do crime. Jack fits you perfectly. Well, it is my name.
So I assume I know what Pokemon you're gonna pick. Fennekin?
Yeah, Fennekin.
I'm picking Chespin, so.
Ooh, I already get the advantage.
Yeah, at least until we get to
Please be a girl, please be a girl, please be a girl.
It won't be a girl.
Please be a girl.
It won't be a girl. You're not gonna save reset.
No, I'm not.
Because you forgot to save.
Because it's a pain in the ass on the emulator.
You mean the legitimate 3DS that we're playing on?
Yes. Oh, should we
3DS.
Should we have the same naming convention?
Yes.
What are we gonna do for our names?
I don't know.
Jack gonna cut a bitch like they cut down that beanstalk. If you get a Psyduck, please name it Ham. It's me, thank you.
Well, if we get a Psyduck, we'll name it after you.
So maybe we should do food names.
Food names would be good.
Food names is good. I like doing food names.
Well, then I'm gonna go with the obvious.
Chestnut.
Chestnut.
That's cute.
Fire type's usually something spicy.
Yeah, I was gonna say brulee, but I kind of always do brulee.
What about? Well, it's French, so
yeah,
brulee would work.
Yeah.
You could go for
Random letters for Pokemon names.
I could barely read the chat from here, so
yeah.
Jack's gonna be kind of on chat duty.
I usually am.
Brulee would work, but you use that one a lot, so. How about I feel like a French chili. Chili pepper.
Or like, what's that cheese? What's that cheese that they heat up and then pour on top of stuff?
Oh, great question.
What is that called? No, not queso. I named my first legendary Burger, and it's still my favorite. It is Flurgerburger.
It's great.
Yeah.
Raclette.
Raclette. That's perfect. How do I spell that?
Raclette.
Come on.
It's okay. She can be a girl regardless of what her gender marker says, just like me.
Yeah, she's just trans. Don't worry about
She'll just trans her gender at some point.
it. I wonder if I could just trans her gender at some point.
You probably could. There's lots of save editors.
It is appropriate to, on my end at least, Shauna has
Yeah.
chest spin. Although I guess it would be more appropriate if Serena had it.
Yeah.
Also, why can't you have Serena's ponytail? Why do you not start with Serena's ponytail?
I don't know. Why don't you start with Callum's face? I don't know.
Yeah, I do actually.
Oh, it's true, you do. I like the hair down style better anyway. I got the prof's letter.
I think they googled it, but I said it first. My uncle invented a Raclette party server. That's so cool.
Amazing.
I keep forgetting to look over at chat. I'm gonna put this here so that.
Oh yeah, now
hopefully-
maybe I can see chat too.
Yeah.
No, I still can't. It's blocked by the microphone.
Penny can't read chat.
Yep.
It's fine.
I have no idea what's going on, but that's okay.
That's normal.
Tell him, my dude, in every region, kids are picked to do Pokedex. He's gonna be stressed.
Penny can't read. Confirmed.
We all knew. We all done known.
We've been known.
We've been known.
Which I think is something I say too often.
Oh right, I need to go. I was just like going. I gotta go talk to my mom first.
Yeah, you gotta go tell your mom. Can't leave
But
without
first,
telling your mom.
It's battle time!
Yay, let's learn how to battle.
I love her so much. Shauna's so fucking cute.
Shauna is so cute.
Also, if you pick the girl character, she's lesbians.
She is very lesbians.
Uh-oh. Oh, there we go.
My great uncle is/was a Swiss inventor, and his son is a caterer, also Swiss, obvi. So, caterable raclette machine was inventable. Nice. Inevitable, sorry. I can't read either. I thought we knew Penny can't read.
We've been new.
We've been new. Kick this chestpin's ass real quick.
Kick it right in its buttocks.
And its adorable little buttocks.
I'm just beating up a Froakie. It's cool.
It's okay, Penny. Adult literacy is a rising problem. Adult illiteracy. I'm not wearing my glasses, and the chat is very small.
Jack can't read either, confirmed.
Jack can't read either. Yeah, we knew that one too.
Say hi to your mom for me.
Do you know my mom? I guess everyone knows my mom.
Yeah, everyone knows your mom. Your mom's famous. Our mom is famous.
Yeah.
She's a famous Rhyhorn writer.
And this is her baby.
Yeah.
Her famous Rhyhorn.
A ride-on.
Ride on, whatever.
She rides on a ride-on.
Don't give Kanji ammo. Oh no, the problem is rising right before our eyes.
Hey,
You guys have the same mom. Yeah, we do.
listen. Mom, don't meet Professor Sycamore, okay? He's too hot. Just... Sycamore, did you fuck my mom?
What is with the Pokemon professors flirting with your mom? I feel like this is a common occurrence.
Of course I know how to use a town map. I'm ahead of you. I'm gonna get more powerful than you.
No!
No, I'm just talking to my friend right on.
Let your mom find
Rhyhorn.
love. I wish my mom would
It is a
find love.
Rhyhorn, actually. I know Pokemon. I know what Pokemon is.
I know what a Pokemon is.
I feel like I'm obligated to, I love that we just have a pet Rhyhorn.
Yeah, he's great.
I like his little bed and his little beach ball.
Yeah, I love his little like entertainment.
Yeah. He's just chilling. He's like a big cat.
I'm gonna get ahead of you. Ha 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 hee hee ha ha.
Ha ha hee ha. Now the world is mine. That's my Dr. Wily impression.
Let's go. I don't think there's any fashion in this town, is there?
In Aquacord? I don't think there is, but there's a guy, if you talk to, he'll give you a potion.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, okay, my partner Pokemon will battle for me, that's fine.
Yeah, we have to get to the next, thing here. I'm definitely gonna need a flying type on my team.
As someone who had a single mom my whole life, any I'll do your mom jokes didn't work because I want her to have love. That's adorable. No, I'd be very happy if my mom found love.
Maybe she would stop yelling so much.
I wasn't gonna say that part out loud.
Oops.
Hey, it's my friend.
As much as I would love to have music, it's way better if only one of us has music and it's Jack's channel.
Yeah. We'll be in about the same place, so it's fine.
Yeah. Face Bumblebee.
I don't hate Bunnelby, but I do hate Diggersby. And he goes from being like a cute little buddy to be like super ugly.
He has a butt for a race.
Yeah, but it's kind of cute. It's like that ugly cute, but then he just becomes ugly.
Yeah. Not a Diggersby fan, personally.
No.
Alright, I've been catching Pokemon since I was 3 years old. I know how this works. There is one exception to the rule. We will probably be both forced to use Lucario at some point due to Mega Evolution tutorials. Any tutorial content doesn't count towards the rule.
What?
There'll be Mega Evolution tutorial later in the game, and they'll give you a Lucario.
Ah.
We're not any tutorialized content where we're forced into using a Pokemon is fine. We can use the same Pokemon for that.
Yeah.
Other than that, nah.
Mhm.
Alright, I really need a flying type. I would love
Which means
to
we're gonna be fighting over Oros.
Are you fighting over what?
Oros and Tyrant.
Aurorus and Tyrant?
Yeah, Aurorus.
Oh yeah, we're both gonna be fighting over Aurorus.
Yeah.
Because you want Aurorus, right? I also want Aurorus.
Although Tyrant's pretty cute, so
Tyrant is pretty cute.
maybe we'll do a Pokemon battle.
No,
for him.
you can have Aurorus. You can have Aurorus because I want a different dragon type and a different rock type.
Okay.
I feel obligated to. I feel a little obligated to have a. What's its fuck on my team? Oh, are we frozen?
I think it's just the iPad connecting to the stream.
Look, I'm just trying to find a bird, okay? I need to have a flying type before the first gym. You'll do fine on the first gym. I just need to have a flying type before the first gym.
I'm just enjoying the Pokemon battles right now, actually. I won't forever the random Pokemon battles, but for now.
Ugh. Oh, me.
Oh, you can get a Pikachu in the forest, can't you?
Yep.
Or a Pichu.
You can get a Pikachu in the woods, yeah.
I want a Pikachu. I did this,
Well, you know what? I'm just gonna go to the woods. I'm gonna go to the woods and I'll catch a Spupa or something.
Oh, Spupa's great.
I'll just have a Vivillon or something. Probably not permanently, but at least long enough to have some flying techniques with Bug Gem.
He's got a single Zigzagoon.
Single Zigzagoon that's faster than me.
Oh, I thought that was my connection. No, it seems like it's the stream. It's fine. I think it's because I'm streaming on Wi-Fi instead of Ethernet for some reason. Let me just see if I can... I don't know why the Ethernet's not working. So, yeah, we may, you know, I did say it was the technical difficulty stream. It will continue to be the technical difficulty stream.
Yeah. Chestnut. Ooh, Olaf. Nice. Actually, you know what? I'll be totally fine with Olaf.
Mm-hmm.
For the Bug Gem.
Oh, yeah.
I don't necessarily need a flying type because I've got Olaf. I'm still probably going to try to get one.
Yeah. I want to find a Pikachu. That's my goal in Santaloon.
Then I guess I won't worry about Pikachu then.
I mean, if you want.
Because we can't both have Pikachu.
We cannot both have Pikachu, that's true. I just love Pikachu so much.
I'm gonna catch a Scatterbug.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, Fletchling! I was looking for Fletchling.
Do you want a Fletchling? Because I like Scatterbug.
Well, I also like Scatterbug. I was looking for fire flying type, because you already have a fire type.
I do.
I probably won't use Fletchling permanently, but like, now that I know he's here, I'll prioritize catching that. You can have Scatterbug.
I might die, actually.
I do love bug types.
You do love bug types.
Oh, Fancier!
Is the stream buffering for other people?
Never mind.
Yes. The stream is buffering for everybody.
Never mind, I found a monkey.
I don't know how to fix it. Because usually,
do I want Fancier?
Usually it runs on Ethernet.
I want to catch Pansear. I don't know that I want Pansear on my team, actually. No, I don't want Pansear. I'd rather have Fletchling than Pansear.
Okay, let me check my Ethernet cable and just see if I can get it running on Ethernet.
Alright, well, I'm gonna try and catch a Fletchling in the meantime.
Alright.
Oh, never mind.
Pikachu!
I found a female Pikachu. Yeah, you do.
You do?
Yeah. You get 10 automatically. I guess it's Pikachu time for me. Remember the rule.
Do a Fletchling?
Yeah. Catch me a Fletchling and we'll trade. I have no idea whether I'm catching this thing or not. I got it.
Yay!
Okay, well now I'm gonna wait around a little bit, because... Weird. Also, I don't need this plugged in.
You don't.
Just in case I know it shouldn't be, but... Well, in the meantime, I'm gonna keep the people entertained. What do we name this Pikachu? Dear Pikachu, so... What?
Did I break it?
No, you didn't break it. Your Pikachu's name is...
I usually name them Lemon or Meringue.
Bingus. Lemon or meringue.
Yeah, something citrusy.
What's the French word for lemon?
Lemon.
Lemon. It's just lemon again.
I'm pretty sure it's just lemon again.
Well, French is a fake language. Fucking fake-ass moon language.
I'm so confused why my Ethernet cable is suddenly not working.
I don't know.
You all got polygons.
We have no polygons.
We have no polygons.
So do you want it to be lemon or lemon?
Yeah, lemon or meringue would be good.
Meringue. Meringues are good.
Alright, well, we'll just...
Citron?
Oh, citron? That feels masculine to me, though.
Meringue is good.
I like, yeah, I think meringue.
How do you spell words? I can't spell words.
M-E-R-E-N-G-E. Lady P. Got you.
Meringue.
Yeah.
No, that's merengue. That's a dance.
No, that's correct.
It's a dance.
Well, but yeah, but it's an I. Meringue. Meringue. Got like a stitch in my side now. Panpour.
Meringue.
Oh no, Panpour's gonna kick my ass.
Like that.
Yeah.
That's meringue. See, I don't know how to spell.
Oh yeah, it's working. Look, you can see me on the passerby thing.
Yeah.
I can fight a Pansage. Should I say it?
Yeah. I'm gonna save this Pikachu that I got for you.
As soon as I find a fletchling.
We'll just run around and fight stuff, I guess.
Scatterbug. Scatterbug!
I want a Caterpie.
You didn't get Scatterbug, right?
I did not get Scatterbug. You can have Scatterbug.
Fletchling is so good. Love me a Talonflame. Yeah, Talonflame's great.
Talonflame's great. I just have other plans. There are so many Pokemon that I want to... Caterpie so much. Caterpie. His name is...
There we go.
Ethernet just had to boot itself back up.
Yeah. Hello, chat?
Hello, we're back.
We're back, maybe?
We appear to be back.
We appear to be back?
We're back, and we're not super delayed anymore.
Yeah.
Delayed, are we? Oh, only a few seconds. That's fine.
That's normal.
Yeah.
Okay, hopefully you guys can chat with us again.
We did it. I have butter now.
Yeah. Penny has butter, and I have sprinkle.
That's not what I clicked.
I still need to find a fletchling.
You need to find a fletchling for me so I can trade you meringue.
Yeah. What kind of butter? Just butter.
Little
Caterpie butter.
Caterpie butter free.
We're back. Thank God. Thank my awesome technical difficulty skills. I think I cursed the stream by saying technical difficulty stream.
Yep, you did.
I totally cursed it.
You totally cursed it.
But it was funny. That's my excuse.
Yeah.
I have to do the bit. Wow, you don't even have your own tech support? No, I am tech support. Oh no, a Pantor. I don't want to deal with it. I want a fletchling. Your tech support. As long as it's funny, yeah. Only when it's funny. I don't want to be like super high level either.
No, I don't either. I just want butter to gain a few levels.
Come on, where's my fletchling?
You had one before.
I know, and then I didn't get it because you wanted fletchling, and then you got a...
And then I randomly found a Pikachu.
Yeah. Good news, Jack Ham doesn't need to dox you anymore. Oh no, not Hobby Hamtaro. Hobby Hamtaro. No. Oh yeah, Penny wasn't here for Hobby Hamtaro. Penny doesn't know what's happening.
I sure don't.
That's fine.
That's fine. I'm not worried about it.
Hobby Hamtaro is Hobby Ham's imposter.
I see.
You can still ban it? No, this is funny. I'm not sure what's happening either. Fair. Please.
We'll just catch a random fodder thing and I'll send this Pikachu to you and then...
No, because that's not how this works. It's not how the game works. We specifically said that last night.
Yep.
I'm less an imposter and more of a mirror world doppelganger. Damn it. Do I need to look up where the heck the frickin'... No!
But I can't catch it because if I do, then we won't be able to trade it.
Oh, man.
I guess I'm fainting it.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
There it is. Don't faint it.
I won't. Hopefully. Why don't I switch?
Just throw a thing at it.
Oh. You think that'll work?
It's really low level. It'll probably work.
I'm trying to work, but my cat bug keeps wanting to sit on the warm laptop. Oh, your cat bug.
As opposed to a cat bug.
I like how Dan is just using the Hobby Hamtaro account. Alright, what do you want your fletchling to be called?
My fletchling should be named... Jalapeno.
Jalapeno. Oh, it's a girl.
Her name is Jalapeno.
Is this how you spell jalapeno?
I think so.
Jalapeno?
Well, it has an Enye on it, but you can't really do that, so it's good enough.
Yeah, not in this game. No, wait, I can. On the N, right?
Yeah.
What's the... I thought I had it. Alright, jalapeno.
Jalapeno. Jalapeno business.
I don't have a cat named Bug. Oh, okay.
Okay, so slight issue.
Uh-huh.
To get to the Wi-Fi, we have to tap.
It's not a slight issue. Just use the mouse. We just can't do it at the same time.
Yeah.
Dan's commitment to the bit is admirable. Let's see if this works.
Good work. They are connecting to each other. They are seeing each other, rather.
We may have to click on passerby
Maybe.
instead.
Oh yeah, that might be it.
So it may fail, but that's fine. We'll just wait for it to...
If it fails, it's like... bleh.
Yeah. See ya, Ham.
Yeah.
Please
Got
ban
me.
Hamtaro. Its evil will infect you, and I have warned you.
Trade. Yes.
No. That's fine.
Fine. We can trade or battle.
We can trade or battle. Wade. I can't believe this works. This is crazy. Yeah, let's go.
You can't see the fancy dance I'm doing.
No. Unfortunate, because it's a very fancy dance. What if you went to battle in a Pokemon game and out of nowhere, instead of regular music, it just played the Mortal Kombat theme instead?
We're now officially acquaintances.
Yay! How do we become friends? Oh, paralyze heal, thanks.
Don't forget to talk to her about
Heals.
heals, yeah.
Gotta heal our Pokemon.
Thank you.
I fear banning Hamtaro will just result in candied ham.
Candied hobby ham. Deviled hobby ham.
Deviled ham?
Yeah, deviled ham.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Oh. I know of deviled
Usually
eggs.
comes in a can.
Ew.
Yeah.
Canned ham?
Yeah. Like Spam, but different. Canned ham product.
Ugh.
It's one of those, it's one of those like old school products that nobody uses anymore. Because it was kind of gross.
Like bread in a can?
Yeah.
You can still get bread in a can in
You can still get deviled
Japan.
ham in the US.
Yeah, but like it's different in Japan where it's like actually kind of like a croissant. Alright, let's give some levels.
The sprinkle. Just
Sprinkle.
swap sprinkle in and then do what I do and just have your lowest level in front and then just swap them out first turn.
Yeah.
Good morning, it's Pokemon!
It's Pokemon! I'm so excited that this is working.
Right? This is so much fun.
The fact that we can like both play is awesome. Gender markers between streams, don't worry about it.
It's okay, she's just transgender.
She's just transgender.
Okay, unpopular opinion, I fucking love Chestnut.
No, Chestnut's good.
I really love Chestnut. I know, but loving Chestnut is an unpopular opinion.
That's stupid.
I guess the question, the other question is, which one of us gets the sword? Because the one who doesn't get the sword could potentially use Golett or Golurk. And I kind of want to use Golurk.
Okay.
But also, I'm gonna have a different rock type, so maybe you use Golurk?
I don't know.
Maybe somebody. I don't know exactly when Golurk shows up anyway, so...
I don't know when anybody shows up, honestly. Do not love Chestnut, lol. The same issue as Jack did with Incineroar. Yeah, I was so upset about Incineroar. Oh, there's a fucking Pikachu. And it's a girl.
Yep. You already have one. And the one you have levels up faster.
Really?
Yeah, because it's traded.
Oh.
Traded Pokemon gain more experience. That's always been true.
I had no idea that was a thing.
Really? That's literally always been true.
No, I didn't know. I feel so sad killing this Pikachu.
You should. You're a monster. Mega.
Oh god.
You need any Pokeballs?
Always.
Yeah. Thanks.
Alright, Ricklet's level 10. I should switch. Let someone else lead for a while.
Yeah, you definitely should. Sprimkle. Ranabo Sprimkle. Your Pokemon are in for a shock. You're in for being killed by my entire body. I'm going to kill you. Random lady.
A Pokeball, thanks. One single Pokeball.
I think it's cool that Mega Chestnut gets like a, it can like turn its shoulder, it gets like cool shoulder pads, and it can use the shoulder pads as like fucking spears.
Yeah.
I'm going to roll out. Simultaneous tail whipping.
In sync.
Synchronized tail whipping. Oh no, I'm staticked.
I would watch Pikachu doing a synchronized dance. That's great. Have you seen the Pikachu mascot costumes?
I've seen a number of Pikachu mascot costumes. Which one specifically are you referring to?
The big round ones that they use officially.
Yes, they're really funny looking.
They're really cute.
Fine, whip.
It's weird to me that in VA, it's about what level you caught a Mon at, and it's not its current level.
Yep.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
Oh.
That's actually true of Scarlet and Violet as well. They did that because of the more open nature of the games.
Oh, that makes sense.
Jalapeno, learn quick attack. Yeah, Jalapeno's level 7.
Let's go, Jalapeno!
Yeah, Jalapeno! Went up 3 levels in one fight.
Wow. I have a video clip to save of someone discreetly sneaking up behind someone wearing one of those Pikachu costumes. Oh! Farting right into the intake fan.
Oh god!
Oh my god! This is why you guys aren't allowed. This is why. This is...
Just, wow, you caught a Pikachu! I sure did.
Irresponsible.
I caught a Pikachu, and then I gave it to Jack because I love them.
Yeah. And then I give you Fletchling.
Yeah. I like Fletchling.
I don't know where to go. I think it's this way.
It is that way, but you miss out on a trainer battle if you do.
That's fine.
Is it?
Yeah.
Trainer battles are the
Hello.
#1 way to get XP.
Yeah. But also... I don't like doing too many trainer battles because they...
This is why you won't win our fights.
This is why I won't win our fights. When do we catch what? The Musamon? Oh, is that because Hobby Ham is Canadian?
Actually, that raises a question. I don't think there is a moose Pokemon.
Yeah, there is. A Rambler. Because he's a reindeer. The big nose and then the horns. But I guess he's a reindeer.
Stantler?
Stantler. Sorry.
Yeah, he's a deer.
Rambler is a mythical beast.
Yeah, Stantler is a deer.
Yeah.
And so is its evolution, Weird Ear.
Get me out of the forest. Yeah, Weird Ear is also
I can't believe I forgot that
Canadian-
potions can even be used during...
It's the Canadian Pokemon mascot. It's everyone's favorite. It's the first thing people... What the fuck is that word? I think about Pokemon in Canada. Something think about. I just... Oh, Hobby Ham's back. So's the deerling line. More deer, no moose.
Yeah. More deer, no
You do the bit when I'm not even here, bruh! It's the first thing people think about. Uh-huh, okay.
Where? Way.
Where?
Oh, there. There.
Lore, even. I have to establish lore. People are gonna confuse us if I'm not even here to defend myself. I got the adventure rules.
Dun, dun,
Penny's fighting Pokemon.
I'm just trying to get one item, okay?
Oh, the little thing in the corner?
Yeah.
I totally skipped that. I should actually go get that.
I'm just trying to go get it while I still have, my friend to heal me. That's the word I'm looking for. Heal
It's
me.
fine.
I'm slow now.
That's what Raclette is for.
Yeah.
What if the goal is to usurp and replace? Oh no. I'm gonna make an alt account called Hobby Ham Tarot and just talk about esoteric shit. Stop making Penny laugh when she's drinking tea, you guys.
I'm trying to drink tea! It was a potion.
The tea?
No. Well, yes, but the item.
The tea is a potion.
The tea is a potion.
Wow, you're right. This is good. Getting this one potion is gonna really suck, isn't it?
Now I'm doing the cutscene.
Yeah, it's fine. We've just swapped.
Tierno is just, or the
Oh, no.
dancer lady from ZA is just Tierno, but like a girl.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I don't want to play nice. I want to run. I'm done with this. Bitch. Alright, fine.
I've been adventuring in the Pokemon world since I was 3 years old. I don't need your stupid rules, Caleb. This is good on Pokemon Center. It's here now.
Yeah.
That kid has funny hair.
I like his little,
Charizard
his
plushie.
little Charizard plush, yeah. This Pansear is such a bitch.
You're just happily playing together, okay?
Die. If we're gonna make an entire ham verse, I'm gonna need you to at least advertise the stream. Hobby Ham Taro, did you know that I stream? Dan Taro.
Damn, Taro.
Azrael's cute.
I love Azrael so much.
You can get him.
Well, I can't. It's a trainer battle.
Oh. Rude.
And I don't know when they show up.
We can find out. Listen, I love Pokemon music, but I get so sick of the battle music. potion was not worth this.
I use Azumarill a lot, though, is the problem.
Well, but I use literally all of the Pokemon in my team a lot, and I'm doing it anyways.
Fair enough.
Because it's fun. I love the battle music in ZA. The bass gets funky. Oh man, I have to... will you heal my Pokemon again? That's fine. Bartle. Sorry, you said Bartle music, and my astigmatism
Apparently
changed
it can be found on Route 3.
Oh.
Which is where we are, so...
Great.
Is that the water type I want to use this time? That's the question.
I don't know what water type I want to use.
Because Squirtle is also a potential option. The Squirtle line is also a potential option.
Oh yeah, because they give you
a thing.
A thing. Ooh, we'll have to...
Also,
we'll have to decide which one we want from that.
Other options are...
There's
actually,
3 Pokemon that they give you in this game?
2. Just 2.
No, because you also get a Lucario.
Oh yeah, Lucario. I mean, as far as water type's concerned, there's also, like Skrelp and Dragalge is an option. So is Clawitzer and Cloyster and Kingdra. There's all sorts of, like, really good water type options.
Yeah. So if I have these 3 and then...
Ooh, get Good Rod. A lot of Pokemon require the Good Rod.
The what?
The Good Rod.
It was a typo, but I was delighted by it. Yeah, that's fair. Sometimes the typos are good. Azurill is so cute. It's a little baby Pokemon. Yeah, Meringue, level up. Meringue learned Growl. Oh, it's so ferocious, Pikachu.
Apparently the Good Rod is found... while you're doing this, I'm just gonna...
Yeah. I want to see more off-type Pikachu clones. Like Pawmi is like fighting type.
Red Town. Homer.
Like nearly halfway through the game.
Yeah. The old rod can be found in Ambrat Town. And then the good rod can be found in Homer. So I'm definitely gonna use the I'm gonna try to find an Azurill at least for now. Because a lot of my favorite water types can only be found with the good rod.
Oh, wow! First try.
Like what? Oh, nice. It's a boy, but nice.
It's just more fun naming girls.
I guess it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Nope, didn't think so.
Oh no, Butter.
Butter will be fine.
Oh yeah, the most annoying thing about Pokemon X and Y.
Apparently you can only find
clothing is
tentacles.
locked
Surfing.
by what day it is.
Is it?
Yes.
Is it really?
Yep.
That's dumb.
Certain clothing is locked to what day it is. So if there's a certain piece of clothing that you want, we may have to like pop in off stream and like.
Well, I guess I'm probably not gonna get a Dragalge for a while. That's okay. I can use that.
Black does not like the Palmy line. That's fair. I think Palmy is kind of cute.
I have got him. Where do I find right? Glittering Cave? Where the hell is Glittering Cave? Alright, what's my Azuril's name? What's his name?
This song loops so much better in this game. Sorry, I'm just mad about it.
Yeah.
What about Gelée?
How do you spell that?
Gelee.
What's that mean?
It's the jelly layer in cakes.
Ah.
2 L's. I think. You may want to look it up.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, it's literally the exact same song, except they took out the part that loops.
Yeah. It appears to have one E, one L.
Oh, okay.
Because it's French.
Yeah.
Butter!
Butter is evolving!
Yay, butter! He's become a crescent moon.
Good. I really wish this was a longer loop. Everyone does. Everyone wishes this was a longer loop.
Everyone wishes they used a different version of it in ZA.
Literally, if they just used this version, it would be fine. Like, it's still a little bit too short.
I need to have a passion for fashion.
Yeah, you get all the good clothes.
I sure do.
Butter becomes a croissant. How appropriate.
Yep. A cool.
I don't love camo, but this is still better than what I had.
Aw, look at the little picture on the acquaintances.
Aw.
It's adorable. I just want to heal my Pokemon. Shut the fuck up, Tierno. Okay, cool. Everything's fine.
Alright, time for you to have a passion for fashion.
I gotta make sure my Pokemon are in the right order first. This music sounds like Mario Party music.
It does. Like, it's a little bit,
Western Land.
yeah, it's a little bit Western Land.
Alright, let's see what we got here for fashion items. We got green t-shirt.
Yeah. The dresses are very much. dress you have on is fine. This store is mostly hats and accessories.
Yeah, it's true.
I think it's the rhythm section that really clinches it. Yeah. It's cute. What other colors are there?
Pink.
Oh, the pink. I wore the pink. That's the hat that I wore literally all the time. Yeah, the pale pink is what I wore as a kid when I played this game. And of course it is. The flower. That's really cute. And it matches your bag. I love the hats in XY and the plaid pants. Yeah, I'm not sure about my camo hat, but I like it better than the other one that I was wearing, so. It looks cute on Penny's little screen.
Yeah. It does look very cute on my little screen.
Don't need to be in here.
It's very you. Very, like, non-binary child.
Non-binary child.
Yeah, just like you.
I don't have roller skates. Okay. I'll beat you in a battle for roller skates.
Whether it's Pokemon or roller skates, speed is important. Oh, I gotta go roller skating battle that.
Yeah. Currently in ZA, I'm dressed as a postal worker and I adore it fit so much. That's awesome. It's just a Zigzagoon.
I like that her name is Rinka.
Yeah. Like Roller Rinka.
Yeah, Roller Rinka. Look at my little weird mouse thing.
I love him.
His name is Jello.
His name is Jello.
Oh no, he has two L's.
Whatever.
His name is spelled wrong.
It's fine.
I don't know how that happened.
It's because I wasn't paying attention when you did it. You even said, oh, it only has one L.
Yep, and I thought I corrected it, and I didn't.
Zigzagoon's little sniff animation. Oh my god. He just goes sniff sniff.
Sniff, sniff.
So cute. His little nose. Now I got roller skates. That's cool.
Yeah. Now you can move into analog. And faster.
Speed.
Oh wow. I did absolutely no damage. No, I didn't want to run. Fuck you. Fuck you. Stop it.
Oh, I like the pink hat and the flower in the bottom screen.
Oh, I can't even see it. The iPad's in the way. Oh, that is cute.
It's very cute.
Bird time, it's bird time. Dun-a-dun-a bird. Dun-a-dun-a bird. Jalapeno's level 9. GLA is level 6.
Do I have any treasures to sell? I don't think so. Not yet.
I got to them roller skates.
Good.
Time to heal. Time to heal.
It's one of my favorite gym leaders, honestly. She's so cute. Loading screen, cutting off the music. I think I just have to follow the bubbles or the dewdrops. If if I remember correctly.
Yeah, pretty much. Of course, you want to fight all the gym trainers. The bubbles show you the easiest path to the gym leader, for sure, but you definitely want to fight all the gym trainers.
Good.
Because if you don't, you're never going to stand a chance against me.
Yeah, it's fine. The air is reaching you a little.
Not really, no.
What about now?
Nah, but it's fine. Don't confuse me, Ladybug.
Oh, you got your Jack mug? That's so cool. Your world's okayest chat club mug.
World's okayest to chat.
Oh yeah, Penny hasn't seen the merch yet. Penny doesn't pay attention to me.
I sure don't. I just need Chestnut to stop punching himself in the face real quick.
Penny, you gotta get this merch. Penny doesn't have money for merch.
Yeah.
Puppy.
Stop punching me.
Penny doesn't pay attention to shit. Wow.
I sure don't.
Warm honey. The outside smells funny. I opened my window and it smells funny now.
Fuck that guy.
Jack is a mug. Hope Jack's
Mean mug.
hair floof is the handle. That'd be really funny.
Yeah. Chestnut can absolutely.
The ahoge.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Sorry about this. Smells like Teen
Jenny's level
Spirit.
7.
It
You can
smells
learn
like
Bubble.
plant.
Bubble is power 40. Water gun is power 40.
Should I go and fight all of the guys in the gym? Yes.
Yes.
Am I going to, I don't know, can I fight them after the gym leader?
No.
Oh.
No, you cannot.
Well, then never mind. Because I can't back out of this now.
I love the gym leader music in this game. Surskit is so cute.
Surskit is very cute.
You know,
also
do you know what
water-type.
sound Surskit makes in the anime?
Hmm.
Yes.
That's so cute.
Go, Surskit!
If I ever get a Surskit, I'm gonna name it Gouda.
You're gonna name it.
I mean, basically. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. Nobody. my chat on my VTuber Twitch channel doesn't know anything about VTubers. This is fine. Damn, bro.
Using a level 5 Pikachu against a level 10 dude.
Don't worry about it.
It's part bug, so it's gonna be neutral.
Fuck, it knows bubble.
It does nose bubble.
I might die.
You might die.
I might have to do this over again.
That's true, you might.
Looks like a damn Kirby enemy. Surskit does look like a Kirby enemy.
So does Spupa.
True. Spupa's one of my favorite Pokemon. I love him so much. Look at his stupid little blanket.
I love his little blanket. It's got
So
sprinkles on it.
Rainbow Sprinkle.
Rainbow Sprinkle.
I really wish Masquerain kept the bug water typing instead of bug flying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, oh my god, I forgot they fucking heal in this game.
They sure does heal.
Alright, I'm dead.
This is why you do the gym trainers.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe Sprinkle can do it.
Sprinkle, I believe in you, buddy.
Maybe your level 6 Stun Spore guy can Stun Spore.
Stun Spore him to death, please. Please paralyze. Nah. It's okay. Alright, I'll go.
I hope I can leave. Can I leave?
No. No, you can't.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, you can.
Yeah, you can totally leave.
I didn't know you could leave.
Yeah, you can leave. Let's go back and climb up. I don't know how to roller skate. I'm just running into shit.
I don't know how to roller skate. This was my favorite thing to do as a kid, was just run around like on the roller skates and just like if you do it a little bit, then you get this cute little animation.
Oh yeah. They're like, hey, if you need other Pokemon, there are other Pokemon along the other route there.
No! Don't need other Pokemon.
For Pokemon you do not have. Looking for Route 22 Pokemon. Or another trainer to fight. I'm not gonna fight that trainer out there just yet. That would feel disingenuous. Because of our post gym battle.
Yeah. Ba, 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 ba. We all gonna die someday. Speak for yourself, poser. I'm never going to die.
I promise, I will never die.
Comet punch. The fuck?
It's just a normal type.
Get paralyzed, bitch. Oh, he's gonna hit me most.
It's basically Fury Swipes.
No! Stop it! Stop it!
Wow. Thundershock fucking sucks.
It's okay, Rooklet's here. Don't call me a hoser, you hoser. I'm sorry, Rooklet. Rooklet's getting punched right in the face. I feel really bad. It's fine. Let's ember the crap out of this ladybug.
Ah, hell. I got poisoned. Oh, never mind. Butter got over it.
Nice. Butter said, no thanks.
Butter's like, nah.
Damn, it's getting heated in chat.
Piggy Peck. Piggy Peck's not in this game.
No.
That's, Sun and Moon. Not till next gen. You could have, like, brought a Pidgey with you or something.
I could have. But then you could never use Pidgey.
Why would I want to use Pidgey?
Why not?
I've already got a bird. I don't need Pidgey. Listen, Pidgeot's great. But I'm a bird. I'm already a bird.
I'm already a bird.
I'm already a bird.
Thought you were a moth.
I've already got a bird. I am a moth, but I'm already a bird. I'm already have.
Construct additional bird.
I'm already have a bird.
I'm already have flying type soon.
I'm already have bird. You just need Sprinkle to be high enough level to become a flying type.
Yeah.
Meringue. You're a fancy dance.
She is a fancy dance. Penny can have bird as a sometimes treat. Look, Pidgeot, it's not you, it's Pidgeotto. But I need y'all to imagine me as the Deceiver, and the Deceiver are locked in a fist fight on an ice rink right now. Yeah, I got you, Ham.
Can you swap to my audio? Because I'm challenging the gym leader now.
Not without.
Okay, well, I'm challenging the gym leader now.
Sorry, I'll get there soon.
That's how the song goes. That's the song, how it goes.
I tried to name my fletchling Fetching, so I call her Fetching the Fetching Fletchling, but apparently that's a bad word. What? Just do it in lead. The hams are screaming O's head at each other. Yeah, I already fought this one. It's fine. I won't. Google word that may be offensive that I don't want to say on stream just in case it is.
Oh no, I've been infested. Gross.
Here we go. Googling something when someone tells you to is always a bad idea. It's not an offensive word. I don't believe you.
It just means, like, pretty.
Well, yeah, but I think there's an L in there that makes it mean something else. I don't know.
Oh, fetching.
I don't know what that means.
No, fetching is, like, pretty. I did not read. I did not see the chat and what the actual word was.
It does not. I don't know what it means.
I won. I won the battle.
Nice.
I got
I'm being an idiot.
I got the pink.
Like rose gold.
Yeah. I got the pink. And I got the TM for infestation.
Nice. An activity, huh? Yeah, Google Blue Waffle and get back to me on that.
None of my Pokemon can learn it. That's cool.
Oh, Pavilion.
Yeah. Vivlivian.
This chat was so peaceful this morning.
Vivlivian.
Yeah, well.
Vivlivian.
It always turns to chaos at some point.
Healing up my Pokemon and then I'm gonna wait for you.
Infestation. It's fine, I win.
Oh, also, part of the rule should be, you're not allowed to change your Pokemon order. before the battle.
Okay. Place Ember with Flame Charge, right?
Yeah. You're definitely a special attacker, but at this point, it matters more. Move power matters a lot more than physical versus special.
Oh, yeah. You and your Pikachu. It was not my Pikachu. I love Meringue, but Meringue was there to gain XP.
That's the gym. That's what gyms sound like in France. Pikachu stealing the glory as always. Pikachu!
I think I forgot to put chat on stream. Oh well.
I think you did.
It's fine. I'll have it for next time.
It can be right in the middle.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as I put him in the middle.
I'll be waiting for you in the Fountain Plaza.
Yeah, but... Now the stream avatars are there, and then I can add chat. There we go. That should work. Did I ever put the... Oh, I didn't put the alerts in here. Wait.
No, we're not calling it that. We're really definitely not calling it that. This later we're back.
I know! This is important.
You're important.
You're important.
You're important to me. Yeah, take that, bitch.
Bitch.
Bitch. Hey, we need to test the alerts. Somebody send money via Ko-Fi.
Oh, Ham got their emotes.
Ham motes.
Alright. Hey, we got some bits.
2 bits. Everybody's celebrating.
Okay, there we go. Cool.
Shave and a haircut.
Whoops.
Alright.
Alright, let me go get my guys.
And then come meet me in the Fountain Plaza. We won't be able to see each other, but you do have to stand opposite me.
I didn't see anything fly at Jack's avatar though. Oh.
It might not be working because we've been having technical issues all day.
Don't worry about it. I thought K-Bonk was... Well, I don't know.
I'll be doing this. While I wait for you.
Battle at the fountain, huh?
Yeah, battle at the fountain. I'm gonna find a scenic place in each town for us to battle.
We'll just have to pretend that we're standing next to each other.
Yeah.
Maybe someone will Photoshop it for us.
face me in battle.
Wait, here, let me... So it looks like...
Yeah, no. Right, one step forward. Now we're facing each other in battle.
There we go. Someone Photoshop.
Well, you can see it on the
Me duck out of the way.
thing, right? Because we're right side by side, we're just looking at each other.
Yeah.
All right, ready?
Yeah. Yep.
Single battle, normal rules. Wait, that's set all to level 50.
Oh.
We want just normal, flat rolls up to level 50.
Yeah. Okay. One step forward, two steps back. Yeah, there's just two fountains.
Battle start!
Oh. Yeah. Oh, you have 4 Pokemon.
No more than 3 may enter
Oh, okay. Well, we'll just do it this
because
way
of
for now.
the way these weird rules work.
That's fine. Chat's having a battle too. I forgot to swap my Pokemon.
Remember, we established you can't change your Pokemon order after the gym.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Okay. Not as much as I wish it would.
This is also gonna hurt.
Yep.
Fortunately, I'm not gonna survive another hit, I don't think.
No, you will.
Maybe if you roll low.
Oh, nice.
Like I said, unless you roll low, I'm not surviving another hit.
Mm.
My level's too low to really put the hurt on you. Beans.
Actually, I don't know.
Yeah, you're probably gonna win this.
We're just chip damaging each other. I get a little bit more.
I'm just hoping that I can lower your speed and you don't paralyze me.
Yeah. The power of Jesus and anime on my side. Yeah, I have the power of anime on my side because I'm Pikachu. Gosh, Pikachu's so cute.
Pikachu's adorable.
Like, a lot of people hate on Pikachu because he's popular, but I love... How could you hate this baby? Here's where you may get me.
No. What's gonna happen is I'm gonna tackle you here. And then I'm gonna kill you, and then your static is gonna fucking paralyze me. Oh, no? No, it didn't?
No, and I only have Sprinkle, and Sprinkle's like half your level.
You still have, Regret?
Well, yeah, but... The only hope I have is that I'm faster than you, and I'm not.
You are not.
I do miss the Pikachu that was a circle.
I love Circle Pikachu.
Circle Pikachu's really good.
Fat Pikachu is amazing, and I love it so much.
Ozempic Pikachu is not as cute.
Ozempic
Why did
Pikachu?
you say that?
Say that. Yeah, I've got quick attack.
Yeah, that's pretty good though.
Yeah. Good fight. Good fight.
Nice. God, I miss these like old graphics.
All right.
I think you can just press A.
You gotta. No, I cannot. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Ozempic Pikachu. It may fail.
It will probably fail because of.
That's fine. My mom was on Ozempic for a while. It made her really grumpy. It'll figure it out.
Come on. Come on.
I think it might be failing. Yeah, it does not understand what's happening.
There's no actual 3DS for it to register the friends list too.
No. I mean, we did save just before this, so because it
You
saves
did.
before the saves before the
saves
battle.
before the battle. So yeah, we might have to.
So if it
It might crash because it's not supposed to
should
not have anything to.
yeah, it should figure it out.
I don't think it's gonna figure it.
Doesn't Ozempic make you like hate good food? It reduces your appetite, but it doesn't reduce hunger. So
You're just hungry, but you don't want to eat.
It's hungry, but yeah, you're hungry, but you don't feel hungry. So it basically you lose weight that way, but it also means that like you're really grumpy because your body's not getting as many calories as it's used to,
Or as it needs.
or as it needs. Yeah,
It's not working. Can you soft reset both?
nope. Mine broke.
Ah. Mine's loading.
Is it an anorexia pill? Yeah, kinda.
Essentially is. It's really not good for you. All those like diet pills are like really not good for you.
No.
All right.
Oh, we gotta, because mine crashed. There we go. Some people say it gets rid of the food noise when your brain demands food all the time. When you're not hungry, and it's a big relief for them. Otherwise, other
You gotta
people
click out of it. Jack. Jack.
Oh. I don't know why it forces itself to the top of the screen.
I'm just going this way to see if there's any Pokemon around here I want to battle.
Which way?
Or want to catch. To 22.
Oh, to 22. I gotta keep up. Oh, side dodge. It's ham.
Woggle woggle.
Woggle woggle.
Woggle woggle. He just goes Fraggle Rock.
Oh, and I paralyzed him. I don't have a magic bullet anymore. I just have a regular blender. Oh, I see. I got it. Like a neutral bullet. Whatever. Technology happened.
Yeah, this was well. Gelée can take out.
A blend tech. Oh, you got a blend tech blender? I'm kind of jealous, actually. You could blend a fucking Nokia in that thing. Did they ever blend a Nokia?
I don't think they ever blend to Nokia.
I know they did cell phones.
I know that it's blended, but I like blend better.
Blend.
Yeah, blend. Litleo's cute.
Litleo is cute.
It also has kind of a butt face.
Yeah. Well, so does Cake, my yellow cat that Moxie made me.
Yeah.
He's got that face.
It's Super F. It
Meringue. Yes.
Gelée. It is super effective. Wow, you might even be stronger than Viola.
Well, I did beat her, so that makes sense.
Au revoir.
Not what other Pokemon I want and like where they are.
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably want a water type. I know I'm gonna want Aurora or whatever. Auroros.
Yeah.
The rock ice.
It's Auroros. Yeah.
Auroros. It's hard to say.
It starts as Amora.
Yeah, Amora. That's Amora.
When the moon hits your eye, and it's also a dinosaur, that's Amora.
Yeah. Ooh, EXP share!
I'm still fighting. Oh, EXP share? Oh, I should get that immediately.
Yeah.
I used to hate the EXP share.
No.
Like the way the EXP share worked. I no longer do.
I hate that we don't get it immediately. Alright, Sprinkle should be at the front for a little bit. Aww. So cute. Azumarill's whole line is just so
love
good.
Azumarill's line so much. This is the first time
Hey,
I've ever fairy type.
fight me! Fight me!
Oh, you're too fast.
Renabo Sprinkle. Thundershock.
It's on by default.
Yeah. Learn quick attack. Yes, learn quick attack. Fuck tail whip.
Yeah, fuck tail whip.
that's
I can check mine.
forwards.
I know, but I'm...
No, like literally just forwards, I think. I think it's the next area. Or like one of the next areas.
There's Connecting Cave. Glittering Cave is all the way down past Emerald Town.
Oh, right. Oh,
so
yeah, we go to
it's
Lumios
not
first.
too far ahead,
Yeah.
but it's past the next gym, I think.
I forgot that we go to Lumios first, which means fashion. Uh-oh, did this... Hang on.
I can get one of my ideal final team in...
Why are we dropping frames?
I don't know.
The heck?
They're not dropping that many frames.
Yeah, but it's like... It's upsetty and I don't know why.
Oh, there's a Bidoof over here.
Is a Bidoof. These guys
I'm
don't
just
fight
not.
me.
I'm just gonna not worry about it too much and just get Pokemon as we go.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be super worried about it. I just, if I see a Pokemon
There's
that I
one
like...
particular Pokemon that I want to grab. I don't know if I'm gonna use it permanently, but I might. But that's in Connecting Cave.
Hmm. Burmy. Burmy's cute.
Burmy is cute. That Burmy is going to become a Wormadam.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a really long... Because I always pronounced it Wormadam.
Yeah.
It took me a really long time to realize that the boy version turns into Moth Him, and the female version the girl version turns into Wormadam.
If I had a Mothim, I'd name him Matthew.
Matthew? Yeah.
Because I think that's funny. Ranger level 11! Another Burmy!
Rising Star Loic.
Loic?
Loic.
What a name.
It's got 3 Burmies. Going gelé.
This Burmy is different than the other Burmy.
Yeah. This Burmy has a sandy coat.
Oh. I don't know anything about Burmy.
Burmy's coat changes depending on what environment they were last in when they fought.
Oh.
When Burmy evolved, Wormadam's typing is different depending on what coat it had when they evolved.
Hmm.
So, leaf coat, it'll become bug grass. Sandy coat, it becomes bug rock.
Mm-hmm.
And trash coat, it becomes bug steel.
Trash coat?
Yeah. That's if you're fighting in like an urban area. Or like a area with like lots of machines, like the power plant or whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah, it just picks up like random garbage off the ground.
It's like, I like this.
Because they're all based on the bag rank.
Right. Oh, Magikarp. Magikarp's so funny. Who on the Pokemon team decided we're gonna make a fish Pokemon and it's gonna be useless?
Someone who's a genius.
until it levels up and then it becomes a fucking god.
Yeah. Godfish.
Godfish. That would explain why it keeps his mouth open.
No, that would be codfish.
Yes, that was the joke. The baby is a fairy type Pokemon. I love these guys.
I'm pretty sure they show up again in Pokemon Sun and Moon.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
I don't remember. We may do more of these, by the way, guys.
These two weird-ass fucking...
if we...
Well, we'd have to get through an entire game first.
Yeah, if we get through this entire game and everyone's still enjoying it, we might do more.
More Pokemon side-by-side.
Yeah.
Oh, you're ahead because you didn't bother to fight all the trainers on Route 22.
No, I didn't. I should. So I can keep up.
Yeah, you gotta keep up. Cocktail away. I'm just gonna overly pronounce all the French words.
Oh my god, look at this baby.
I love the Pancham pajamas.
Pancham pajamas.
Pancham pajamas.
Anyone who has a baby, give them Pancham pajamas, please.
All baby children should be wearing Pokemon onesies.
Yes. If you
have a baby child.
Yeah. If you have a baby child, give them Pokemon pajamas.
Pokejammies.
Pokejammies. I want Pokejammies. Get myself some little... Oh my god, I want a Piplup onesie. That would be so cute.
Adorable. I wonder if they make them in your size.
Not likely. I could make one in my size.
You could make one in your size. Blababy.
That's the great thing about knowing how to sew.
Blabibi.
With my giant sewing needle.
Flabib.
Here.
And you find equipped.
I actually don't sew with this giant needle. I sew with a normal sized needle, but you know.
Yeah, sewing with that giant needle would be really hard unless you were sewing like.
Well, it's a doll needle.
Yeah, well, sure.
It's made for making cloth dolls.
Well, sure, but also it's huge and.
Yeah. Kench says, "I'm baby. I deserve Pokejammies." You do. Everyone deserves Pokejammies. Oh my god, it would be really cute if you had like the baby as the first evolution and then the parents are like the second and third evolutions.
That would be really cute, yeah. Fine whip!
Matching mismatched Pokejammies.
Yeah. They're still matching. Oh, you've been growling.
I have Gengar slippers and they're great. B hates them. Aww.
Fuck yeah, Chestnut.
Ooh.
Chestnut can bring Leech Seed.
Paralyzed. I've been
Paralyzed.
Come on, Ricklett.
Butter's level 9. Only one more level and he can actually be useful. I should go to the hospital. Pokemon hospital for Pokemon.
Yeah.
I found a supered potion.
Nice.
It's super. And potion. That's a reference to Marvelous Bridge from Pokemon Black and White.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's marvelous. Also a bridge.
Also a bridge. I love Fennekin's little floofs on the back of its legs because Nimbus also has those.
Fox.
And it looks basically the same. Ooh, Sprinkle's evolving!
Sprinkle! You should have named him Sprimkle with an M. Ranabo Sprimkle.
She is not Sprimkle.
I know her name is truly Sprimkle.
It's not.
Whoa. Let me through because this is.
I love Spupa.
They won't let me through because I don't have enough gym badges.
I love Spupa so much. Ooh, Reclite is evolving!
Oh, Reclite's evolving too! Spupa is amazing.
This is my favorite evolution for Fennekin.
That's everyone's favorite evolution for Fennekin.
Delphox is great.
I love Delphox. I also really love Mega
Yeah, Megan Del Fox is cute. But, like, look at her. She's a little magical girl.
She's a
Ooh,
little magical girl, yeah. Brixen.
Brixen, I don't know.
I think it's Brixen.
Brixen?
Yeah. Because it would be a combination of Bright and Vixen.
Oh, that makes sense.
Hey, listen.
Hey, listen.
I'm Gardner Wheaton.
Gardner Wheaton does not look like he wants to be here.
Gardner Wheaton has a lobster.
He does. He does.
Why does Gardner Wheaton have a lobster?
I don't know.
Broke lobster!
I don't have any, like, attack bug moves.
I also don't have any attack bug moves. What I do have is Chestnut fucking being way too useful. And so getting way too much XP.
I know, that's what I have that problem with Raclette too. So I'm just like, I need Sprinkle to
Ranabo Sprinkle.
Ranabo Sprinkle.
I hate this chair so much.
I'm sorry. I know this chair isn't much better though, so I don't know what to do about that. I can't afford 2 chairs.
I can't afford even one chair.
I can't even afford 1 chair. I need to upgrade this chair so bad, but to upgrade this chair, I need $500, and I would rather spend that on
What's in the yellow?
a Switch 2. Yellow Flabébé.
Well, I'm sure that that's true. I wonder what else.
Yellow Flabébé.
You're a yellow Flabébé. It's
No, I'm a blue Flabébé.
I wish Ladian was better. Like, I wish it sucked less.
It seems like a middle evolution, you know?
Yeah.
I think Black was talking about this on one of their Pokemon Fridays. I think they were making another evolution for it.
No fair, I was supposed to win.
Well, then stop sucking,
Yeah, maybe you should suck less.
child.
Small child. Nice, Poison Barb.
Yeah.
It's not useful for you right now, but
I don't have any
Could
poison
be-
moves.
could be useful later.
Looking for...
Okay, I don't know
Items.
whether I want to use, I don't know what Pokemon I want to use in the end.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because, like, I'm debating between, getting a Dragalge, which is a dragon poison, or I could use a Haxorus for my dragon type, or Axew for a dragon type, and have,
Spupa so much.
fucking Tentacruel. I'm thinking about Tentacruel.
Tentacruel's good.
Because I love Tentacruel, and I don't use it enough. I actually really like poison types. There's a lot of poison types I really like the design of.
Yeah. You got freaking mud. Cover me in mud.
You cover you in mud, yeah.
Rude.
Electricity powers.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a water type, mud sport makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
It's like,
Wow.
lobster time.
I love his stupid eyes. I had a lobster roll last weekend, and I learned that it is delicious.
Yeah, lobster's fucking great. Lobster rolls are
I wasn't
delicious.
sure about it the first time I tried it, but this time I was like, oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Lobster rolls are fucking great. I've been telling you that for years.
Well, so is Dad.
Well, that's one of the things Dad is right about. There is an
often.
intentionally omitted word there.
He's right more often than a lot of people would like to admit.
Yes. Well, he's extremely intelligent. He's a very smart person. I will say that.
Yeah. I love my dad. And he's put in.
He is a smart person, and he is putting in the work.
He is putting in the work.
I will say that. That doesn't mean that I have to forgive him.
No, it does not.
It also doesn't mean that I have to enjoy constantly sniping at each other.
That's true. Tasty sea bug lathered in butter. Yeah, I think I would like the butter one better. I got it was it had mayo on it and it was cold.
Oh yeah, that's the full, that's like the.
And it was good, but I think I would like the warm
like,
butter
loaded.
one better.
I prefer the warm butter to the.
There's a so it's a lobster food truck. It's a lobster roll food truck. And it comes around every once in a while to like San Francisco and other places. And there's like they have a website so that you can track where the food truck is, and every time it comes around, Dad's like, we have to go get lobster rolls.
I haven't had a lobster roll in a dog age. I miss lobster rolls.
Well, maybe one day it'll be near us and we can go.
Maybe. I also want to go back to that sushi go round. I know, spoiled, but I think it's delicious.
It was okay. It was not bad. It was better than the sushi go round that's near Dad's house.
Yeah.
But that's not a high bar.
Listen. As far as I'm concerned, fancy sushi and conveyor belt sushi are two different foods.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not judging it on fancy sushi standards. I'm judging it on shove as much fish into my mouth as I possibly can standards.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think your birthday is the next, like, holiday that's coming up, right?
Well, Acacia's birthday.
Well,
Acacia gets to choose what Acacia does on her birthday.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, butter!
That Dad
Butter,
or your
butter,
birthday
butter,
may
butter.
pay for sushi go round.
I mean, that is true. Also, you totally forgot about Moxie and Mom.
Well, but
Who
Moxie
both have
and
birthdays
Mom don't
ahead of mine.
like sushi, as far as I know.
Well, sure, but like, my birthday is not the next holiday thing coming up.
That we could get sushi
That we
go
could
round.
get sushi go round for. Oh, Skitty.
Skitty's cute. Skitty's normal type?
Normal type, yeah. Delcatty's not bad, actually. Are they gonna move when I evolve? I did, I got confusion.
Ooh.
That's right. Butterfree is actually really good. Namely because, like, Butterfree carried me through my Gen 1 bug run.
Mm-hmm.
Because it can learn Psychic.
Bugsy.
Yeah, Bugsy.
Oops, I killed it.
Oops, you killed it.
I wasn't set on Skitty or anything, but I would have caught it just to have it around.
What if I caught a corfish and I also named it Butter?
You can name it the French word for butter. So you have butter and beurre.
Yeah.
What if you named it mayonnaise?
Nothing to look forward to but the smell of mayonnaise! My psychic bug noises. Also, Butterfree has the ability, or has the ability Compound Eyes,
Yeah.
which is really, really good. Because it means you can use lower accuracy moves,
Mm-hmm.
like, say, Sleep Powder, to better effect. So, like, Sleep Powder and Hurricane. Honestly, there's a non-zero chance that Butterfree ends up in my permanent party.
Mm-hmm. Butterfree is great.
But also that I would have too many flying types.
Well, you don't have to give it flying moves.
That's true. It's still a flying type.
It's true. Antidote.
Flying's not bad, though.
It doesn't have a ton of, like, weaknesses, really.
True. Oh, this is that Burmy lady.
Oh, yeah. The Burmy lady.
Protect yourself.
Protect yourself. Compound Eyes. Those... Oh, yeah. Those other bugs can't deny.
Protected twice in a row.
That's...
3 times in a row?
Why?
How did it work 3 times in a row? That's my question.
I don't know. Because,
Fuck you.
Because NPCs are better than us.
NPCs definitely have the RNG advantage.
They do.
They for sure cheat. Did you ever go and take on those guys in Route 22?
No.
Like you were going to?
I did a few of them. But I want the fashion.
You've got a passion for fashion.
I have a passion for fashion.
Then go fashion yourself some new clothing.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think I can here yet.
You can.
Can
there's
I?
There's at least one shop available. You might have to go see Sycamore first.
I think I do have to see Sycamore first.
So my plan, I think, is to take Charmander.
Okay.
So if you want to take Blastoise or Squirtle.
Yeah. I'm thinking Squirtle or Venusaur.
Or Ivysaur or Bulbasaur.
Or Bulbasaur, yeah. I think I might take Bulbasaur this time.
Then we'll both have one fire starter and one grass starter.
That works.
Because I think I want to use my... I think I want to have my water Pokemon be...
Let me see if I can leave.
I mean, my water Pokemon is currently Azumarill. Or Azurill.
Let me look up. Can you look up where the fashion stores are in Lumiose?
Sure.
Is it just the one?
No, there's definitely more fashion shops. There's one on Vernal Avenue.
Okay.
There's a salon on South Boulevard.
I may not be able to get down any of the streets.
I think it may just be those two, actually. I think it's just Boutique Couture and the hair shop, the hair salon.
Okay, so I can't get any fashion yet.
You can't get any fashion from here yet.
But I can go
But there's
change my
fashion in the
hair.
next town over.
I can go get a haircut.
Yeah.
With the blackout? 'Cause I thought it was...
Yeah, it's somewhere on... Honestly, it's kind of weird hearing this version of hearing this version of the song again. But you're on South Boulevard. If you just keep going past Gate 4, past Route 4, if you just head the other way.
I thought I had a pair of scissors out front.
It
So
should.
it's like easy to see.
Yeah, just keep going. Keep going.
I can't go any further than this.
Strange.
Maybe I can't get a haircut yet.
Maybe it's that? No, that's the PR video. Well, maybe you, just have to go to do the things. I guess you just have to progress further in the story.
I
Or
want
find
a
a hair
haircut.
salon in another town.
Yeah, wait, let me see.
I just beat up a preschooler without even looking at the screen. I can beat up preschoolers all day.
Beat up preschoolers all the time.
All day, every day, beating up preschoolers.
I could do it.
I'm not following Sina and Dexio just yet. I have more gardeners to beat up. I have to go beat up a gardener real quick.
Solana Moon, Southern Boulevard. Get it when you first enter the city whilst the blackout is going. Where?
I don't know. Ground. Maybe there's maybe that little sign there has information.
Because I can't even walk up to the sign.
Ah.
I just gotta start going in buildings.
That's the sound my confusion makes. Ouch. I got hit with bumps. Star Cat Battle Cafe.
I don't think I'm high enough level to do that yet.
Cafe Meh. Or whatever it's called.
Cafe meh.
You might have to you might have to visit the professor first. Oh, Chestnut!
Chestnut's evolving! Let's go!
He's gonna become a fat boy!
Round time. Round boy.
It's time, it's real round boy hours.
Round boy hours.
He's so fat, I love him. Look at my pointy-nosed son. Look at my pointy son. I love him. He's round.
He is round. Maybe I have to go to it.
This is my fat son. He has every disease.
Hi, Sycamore. I love his theme.
Fucking stupid sexy professor.
31 kinds of Pokemon. You have a certain je ne sais quoi.
You do have a certain je ne sais quoi. You're in the Kalos region. You're far away from everything you used to know. Does that really hit me here? Does that hit me? I should give you a Pokemon and have you travel around Kalos. My French accent just turns into a weird lilting German accent.
Yeah, it does.
Bonjour.
Man, the girls get lesbians over there.
Yeah, they're in lesbians.
They're in lesbians. I feel like
I get to be lesbians too.
Yeah, you get
because I picked the girls, so I get to be lesbians. I friggin' love Spupa's.
I love Spupa's everything.
Spupa's cry. He goes.
Yeah. He's a cutie.
I love the Spupa quest in Pokemon ZA.
I don't know.
Hmm?
I don't know that one.
Oh, it's a side quest you can get pretty early on.
Mm. Vega.
I love tired Pikachu noises.
Vega.
We're having
Instead of
fun
saying
and play.
Pika, he says Piga.
Vega.
Because he's too tired. Yes.
Way nice.
I don't use either of those, so
They're the same. They're the same move.
they're the same move.
Bitch. Healed. Making this take longer.
I hate that they can, like, basically unlimited heal in this game.
They cannot. They have a limited number of items.
Well, it seems unlimited when you're fighting a guy who's like one level higher than you and you keep getting him to 1 health and then you just need to hit him one more time and he heals again! Ask me how I know.
How do you know?
Cause it happened! I don't remember what gym leader it was, but I was just having a time.
I've been thundershook.
Thundershook.
If I do any more than that, you're gonna get copyright claimed.
Because your voice is so perfect.
Yeah.
You're right.
Bubble beam!
Bubble Beam. Bubble Beam is hella good.
I can bubble the beam!
I spent like the entirety of Pokemon Diamond bubble beaming everything.
Butter wants to know poison powder. I know it's gonna learn all the poison, all the powder moves, all at once. So I'm gonna take sleep powder. That's the best powder.
Nope.
Meow, 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 meow.
Yeah, that's right.
Meow, that's right. Nobody's saying anything.
Yeah, I don't know.
The chat died. Everyone in chat died. Everyone's dead now.
Everyone in chat died.
Everyone in chat is now dead.
Oh, look at his fucking pose!
I have to beat up 1 million toddlers and then I can go fight Professor Sickass.
Professor Sickass! Kenjamin, it's true, I am a Zombert. Okay. You can make a song out of these.
Yeah, remix.
Bulbasaur.
Bow,
Bow,
I think it's funny that
in Pokemon Stadium, he goes bow, bow.
I think it's funny that most Pokemon keep their like electronic cries. It's gonna be Penny's one big jam submission. Yeah.
Yeah, my one big jam submission is
Gruntilda?
no, that's
Yeah, but it's close enough. Wait, you're right, I still haven't played that game.
Onion. I always name mine onion, so or radish or something. Garlic.
What is French onion soup called in French?
Onion soup. What's the French word for onion?
Stop.
What's a word for?
Nothing. What's a word for you? What do they call it? It's soupe l'oignon.
Soup à la oignon gratin. It's literally onion cheese soup.
Yeah. It's literally just onion. Oignon.
Oignon.
Oignon. What about...
Just even oignon.
Mirepoix. That's what I'll name him.
Mirepoix.
Yeah.
Mirepoix. Mirepoix.
Yeah? I mean,
Yeah, there's an R at the end.
it's an X.
Oh, it's an X. Mirepoix.
Mirepoix.
His name is Mirepoix. Good old Mirepoix.
Yeah. He is the vegetables.
He's all the vegetables.
He's all the vegetables. Oh yeah, we get Mega Stone. We get Mega Stone now.
Yeah, you get Mega Stoned. Unfortunately, I'm playing Pokemon Y, which means I get the worst version of Mega Charizard.
Oh, yeah. I should have asked which version you wanted to play.
It's fine. I like Y. I like Yveltal.
Oignon. It's fun to say.
Oignon.
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 Gotta go.
Friggin' fake ass move language.
I wish France was real.
I don't. I'm glad it's not.
Was it France that was...
Fake country.
Yeah. Was it the bit that France isn't real? Yeah. Okay.
The bit is just a vitriolic hatred for France.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's him.
Hello, Lysander.
Hi, Lysander.
You pointy-haired weirdo.
You fucking freak.
Okay, now I can finally get to Lumiose.
Look at this man and tell me he's not the villain. I've
You
never
called
finished
somebody a
this game.
chosen one.
I've never actually finished this game, but look at me in the eye and tell me that's not the villain.
I can't do it. I would be a liar. I would be a small harp.
I gotta decide what my character for Alex's game is gonna look like. I think little caterpillar child.
Little caterpillar child, yes.
Yeah, because you're like a
You should
moth.
draw it.
I should. Alex is running a D&D game for us on Tuesdays because I'm starting college classes and I don't want to be overwhelmed.
Little like caterpillar ghost, so it has like the ghost wispy tail.
No, that's so sad.
It's okay, you live in my sword.
I do live in your sword. So yeah, we decided that because I might be overwhelmed, I need an excuse to like back out and not be available. Like, cause I mean I host, so I'll be there, but I may be too tired to like really pay attention. So we decided that I will play basically Full Metal Alchemist. I am Penny's character's younger sibling who died and is now, my spirit is now in their sword. So that when I need a break, the child can just like be napping in the sword. And I need to figure out what she looks like. I want kind of like Kana vibes from should get your hair cut first before you do that.
Well, I'm trying to find the haircut.
I know.
I'm not like going to the. Oh, it's right past
look,
there.
it's right here.
You gotta go.
So you have to go to you have to go see the
professor
first.
I gotta go sicko mode first.
I can't have blue hair in this game. $3,000. I think I want short because this is medium. Godzilla.
I want sneeze.
I want sneeze.
I'm doing the thing that Jack was just doing.
Yeah.
Because I was busy fighting everybody.
Yeah, you were fighting everybody.
That's how I play Pokemon. I fight everybody, and that's why I win all our fights too.
Yeah, that's true.
That's pretty cute.
Yeah. Do you want me to pull up the guide for you?
Yes.
Or you can pull it up, yeah. There we go. That looks more like me. That would look really cute on you, the short hair with the bangs. You could do, I guess the light hair would be the closest to your VTuber, but you could also do dark hair, because...
Yeah.
I don't think there's a clothing store we can access until, like, the next town.
Not till the next town, no. Kind of like the bobbed hair.
Yeah. The short or the medium length.
Yeah.
I think the short length feels more like you, though.
The bob.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does. With the bangs.
Yeah. Because the bangs are... Although I think they have a whole bunch of different options for bangs. There's like side swept and then straight across and then no bangs, which kind of is not great.
I think there's just two, actually.
No,
There's
I could have
side
sworn
swept
there
and
was.
bangs.
I could have sworn there were like a bunch of them, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, not according to this guide.
Maybe they're showing the lengths first and then the bangs.
Nope, there's no more.
Huh.
Because it
There
shows
were
with
more
and without
options.
bangs.
Maybe there's just with and without bangs then. Ah. This sleeping Skiddo is so cute. The Skiddo makes the cutest noises as it sleeps. Aww.
Aww. jalapeno, you do not learn flail.
Why not? It's the most useful move.
Sure it is.
I'm gonna go back out here and
Partail.
fight people while you're doing that.
Party way. I don't know what that means actually. Something earth, something ground.
I don't know, maybe. I don't French.
Fight whip! I don't French either. French isn't real.
French isn't real.
France is fake.
Ringo, I need you to learn new moves.
Bubbled bean. Yeah. No, I threw mud at you.
He threw mud at me. How rude.
It's super duper effective.
Defective.
Yes. Because despite being super effective and 3 levels higher than him, it still only did half his hit points.
Yeah. Less than half. Because it didn't go to yellow.
No, it's yellow.
Oh. On your...
You're looking at my hit points.
No, I was looking
Oh
at
no, you're not looking.
Corphish.
Oh, Corphish. Your move is also super defective.
Yeah, my move is also super defective.
This Thundershock fucking sucks.
His fucking pose is so funny.
You're too much for me. You're really something, aren't you? Haha, you must be kidding, aren't you? I'm gonna take Charmander.
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 There's an item here.
His name is Flambe.
Nice. I like how they gave you the accented E, but they didn't give you like any other accent.
Yeah.
So you can be French, but that's it.
Yeah. You can only be French.
You can only be French.
I'd rather die. Death before France. I wish I had a Charizard X and not a Charizard Y.
Sorry. Maybe I can get you one at some point?
Maybe.
Oh, I know how we could get you one.
Legitimate means.
Yeah.
That's okay though, because I don't like its design as much, but Mega Charizard Y is fire flying, and I'm gonna have a dragon type anyway, so.
Hmm.
Well, maybe I should take Garchomp. I love Garchomp, but I use Garchomp all the time, and I kind of want to use Pokemon that I don't use a lot, but still like.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's kind of why I'm thinking that I'll swap, my... Ominous.
This man? Not evil. Absolutely not. How could this man be evil?
Yeah.
I like how Diantha just is wearing wings for no reason.
Yeah. She's wearing wings because she's extra.
I love that she doesn't care. She doesn't care about societal norms. She's like, I'm gonna wear this fabulous outfit and fuck you.
She's a fucking movie star. Since when have movie stars ever cared about societal norms?
Probably a lot, actually.
They set the societal norms.
In a way. Fabulous people are never evil. Well, I don't know about Diantha, but Lysander is definitely not evil.
Definitely not. I bet Diantha is the... is...
Diantha, yeah. Obviously.
Time for haircut.
Time for haircut.
Time for me to get a haircut so I can be cute. Is that Susie?
Yeah, it does kind of look
Is
like
that Aaron
Susie.
Hansen's wife, Susie Hansen?
Oh, you get to pick bangs. I just get shorter, or medium. Bobbed. I don't know why it keeps telling
Speaking
me.
of which, so before we head to the next round,
Cute.
we should.
Sorry, that is so cute.
That is really cute. I like it.
We should.
We should save that for next time. Before heading out to the next route.
Okay. Well, I'll do this then. We can do our things.
For a PR video.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna do the cafe bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll both be in the same place for next session.
It is indeed Jack. That's terrible. This is awful.
I kinda love it.
No.
It is indeed Jack. Where the fuck is the cafe anyway?
There. Oh, it might be the other one. It's just forward.
Oh, I was looking for the other person. I was looking for Serena, but now I gotta talk to Callum. No wonder I couldn't find it. I was looking for the wrong character.
Facial hair. I can have facial hair? Skin treatments. Ooh, I can have freckles.
You can get freckles?
Yeah, apparently. Pikachu cheeks, band-aids, tears, Pokeball, cheek marks. Bandage is kind of cute. Cheek marks.
Yeah, definitely not evil things to say.
Mm-mm.
Things that are beautiful should stay that way forever.
Bandage. The cheek marks were not like blush, it was like Ash's
Yeah,
lightning bolt thing.
that's cute.
It's cute. Give Pikachu a cheek teardrop filled. Pikachu killed a man in prison.
It'd just be sad.
Let's see. You might have tears.
Sad forever.
I just look like Princess Mononoke. Pikachu cheeks.
Okay, let's see what it does for me.
What did you choose?
Cute. Bonjour.
Here's Penny. I think this is the one I used when I was a kid.
Goodbye. I'm going into the distance. That sure is a... Oh. And now I gotta go to the green room and get cute.
Alright, and I'm gonna get Raclette to do this with me. Cause she's my starter.
We're gonna see what happens with,
Just rotate.
Let's see how it looks. That's pretty cute. I'm gonna maybe go with a different lip color.
These poses are great. Bop, 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 bop.
I wish you could keep that stuff on. They don't let you keep it.
They don't let you keep it.
No, they don't let you keep it. I'm receiving a hollow clip. I'm saving because we're at time.
Oh, are we?
Yep, we are unfortunately at time. Phone call for Midgate back to prison, Pikachu. Pikachu's just like, Pikachu. Pikachu. Sharpening a shiv. Pikachu.
Alright, well, hopefully we can figure out,
Pikachu was in jail for a while.
Hopefully we can figure out Penny's VTuber.
Yeah, and then I can be cute and not two-dimensional. As opposed to cute and two-dimensional.
Yeah. Time!
Black time.
Black time.
Just about black time.
It's just about black time. It's almost black time.
Almost black time.
Almost time for Black Woot.
Almost time for Woot Black.
Yeah. So, I guess I need some kind of laptop or second computer to run VTube Studio for Penny. So it may not happen for a little while.
This was fun though. I had a lot of fun playing Pokemon.
We should at least update your
Yeah, we should update my PNG.
your PNG tuber. I'll work on that.
Sure. You're
Stop.
the artist.
Black in time. Well, but then
Black
you
in
have...
time. Black in 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 time. Animal Crossing update dropped early.
I know.
Nice.
I need to play.
I'm not doing that. But y'all have fun. I have other things I am more interested in playing.
Yeah, Animal Crossing update dropped early. I'm waiting for Blick.
Yep, we're waiting for Black. Jam into the PokeStar Studios with tune here while staring at Susie Hansen from Game Grumps.
Yeah.
And also from Kitty Cat Gaming and other notable internet
Things.
Notable internet personality Susie Hansen. I don't remember what her maiden name was.
Yeah, I don't know.
She was always just Susie.
Yeah. Needs no last name.
Needs no last name. Burlow?
Me. I don't need a last name. You guys don't need to know my last name.
Your last name is Draws Games.
I remember everything.
Your last name is Draws_Games.
No.
Your full name is Jack Draws Games.
Yeah. That's it.
Yep. My last name is Unlucky.
You say it first, like in Japan.
Yeah.
Penelope Unlucky.
My last name is Nichols. Penny Nichols.
Penny Nichols is really funny.
I have legitimately considered changing my last name to Nichols.
Well, now you can't because you've said it on the internet.
Well, I said I have.
You can never
that is
do that.
Days gone by. I can do anything I want. Watch me.
The internet remembers all.
You think anyone outside of this chat room is gonna give a shit about what it
Ham is gonna dox you. That's their hobby.
If Ham doxes me, I'll just
Ham's hobby
him.
is doxing people.
I'll just kill him.
All right, everybody, it's time to head over to Bleck's channel.
See ya, everyone.
We will see you over there, or at least I will. And
everybody, we'll see you over there. And remember, Ham, watch your fucking back.
Ham
Goodbye.
specifically. Bye.
I have already saved, so.